Hello everyone and welcome to another classic Warhammer Quest solo game report. If you've watched my last two game reports, you know that I tried a team of good human hero types and it didn't go so great. So as promised, I have a group of bad guys to see if they do any better, because sometimes good is dumb. My first hero and leader of the party is the Barbarian, because he was the only one that was smart enough to bring along a lantern. I rolled a 5 for his starting wounds, which means I get a total of 14, which is really good. He has a really nice strength of 4 and a toughness of 4 with a fur type armor. And every round before everyone fights, he rolls a d6. On a 1, he goes nuts and just hits all my nearby heroes for 1 point of damage. On a 6, he goes berserk for the rest of the combat and he adds 1 attack. And on 2 through 5, just nothing in particular happens. The nice thing is that you add the number of monsters that you've killed to this dice roll, so that later in the dungeon, especially if he's fought some small monsters early on, it gets really likely that he goes berserk and then you don't have to roll for it anymore. I've used this guy many times. He's a great character. He is easily one of the better characters in the game. I have called him Lief the Legbiter because that is what I always name this guy. I know from experience that if you manage to get a magic weapon or something like that early on, then he becomes a real terror. My second character is also a character from the starter box. It is the wizard, and his name is Hundert Luftballoon. The idea is that he was a celestial wizard who maybe wandered off the straight and narrow, and now he's with my group of questionable outlaws. He's got an okay starting wounds of 10. I also get to roll up a number of power tokens. These can be used to add to the power score to be able to cast certain spells. I rolled 5 of those, which is great. He has his Hand of Death scroll that he starts with, which is basically a grievously wound 1 minotaur once during the game kind of spell. And then I have to go and randomly choose 3 types of spells: an attack, a defense, and a heal. For my defense, I got Levitate. It's a 4 power spell. It lets me lift up one of my characters so they can't be attacked in hand-to-hand combat. They also can't fight in hand-to-hand combat and can't move. I don't see myself ever actually using this spell, especially for a power cost of 4. It doesn't protect you all that much. It doesn't protect you for that long, and then you're kind of stuck not being able to do any offense yourself. I also picked up Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt chooses 1 monster on the table. It does 2d6 wounds to it, modified for toughness and armor. I was excited when I got this spell. Looking back, I'm not sure it's that great compared to some of the others. It definitely is a target 1 scary monster and put a fair amount of damage on him. It also has a power cost of 4, which is not bad, but really I think it's only okay. But the most important spell is the healing spell, because this is what will keep your party alive, and for that I got Heal Wounds. Now again, it's a power 4 spell, so if I roll a 1, 2, or 3, I'm not going to be casting any spells unless I dip into my power reserve. But on the other hand, Heal Wounds is not a bad spell at all. Some of those heal spells are very conditional. Certain things have to happen in order for you to actually be able to heal anyone. Heal Wounds is just you pick 1 warrior, you get d6 wounds back. It's automatic. I will take it. The next hero on my roster is the Chaos Warrior. His name is Sir Osis of the Liver. He is a failed Imperial Knight who has wandered off to the Northern Wastes to throw in his lot with the Chaos Gods. Both Lief the Legbiter and Sir Osis of the Liver, if I ever make a Warriors of Chaos army, they're going to be known as the Louts of Chaos. They are people that want to go out and kill in the name of the Chaos Gods, but really they're probably more interested in drinking. So Sir Osis has his big chalice, and Lief the Legbiter, you may have noticed, I've converted him so that he's got a bottle in his hand. They're drunken, boozy bastards, but they nonetheless have gathered a bunch of guys together, and we're going to go out and fight the monsters around our northern settlement. There's a lot of random rolls to go through when you're creating a Chaos Warrior. The first thing to do is you roll 3d6 for your starting wounds. I don't roll great, and I only roll a 10. That's not too bad considering he's got a toughness 4 with his armor, so that'll protect him a little bit. He's also got weapon skill 4, which is not bad, so it's not too bad. It's not too far off the average. I'll take it. I also get a Mark of Chaos, which means that I can re-roll one of my dice once per adventure, and then you roll to see how many Chaos Attributes and Chaos Artifacts you get. I ended up getting 2 Chaos Attributes and 1 Chaos Artifact. The Chaos Artifact is the Chalice of Night, which is kind of perfect because it is in fact holding a chalice, and that is every adventure I roll d6, and that's how many times I can automatically choose to hit with my weapon, which is great. And in fact, for this adventure I rolled a 6, so 6 times during this adventure I can choose to automatically hit with my weapon. Now this Chaos Warrior is only Strength 3 for whatever reason. You didn't get a magic weapon to up that in any way, so it's maybe not as great as it could have been, but still, it fits the model, so great. So in addition to that, he also gets his 2 chaos attributes, the first of which is Arcane Knowledge. So if I roll a 6 on the power phase, I roll another d6. On a 1 through 2, his brain is filled with magical gobbledygook, and he can't do anything that round. And people can get a +2 to hit him. But on a 3 through 6, I draw a random magic card and can cast that spell immediately for free. So if I roll a lot of 6s in the power phase, this could be really useful. The other one is Warp Magic. So at the start of the game, I randomly select one spell card and I went and I drew Healing Hands. So once during the adventure, I can automatically cast that spell. And to have a healing spell in my hand that I can automatically cast at a particular time is really helpful. It means if my wizard goes down or I have a bad power phase, it means I still have the ability to bring one of my characters back from the dead. So with Arcane Knowledge, a Chalice of Night, and the Warp Magic attribute, we definitely have a Chaos Sorcerer in the making with Sir Osis here. And finally, we have Naughtiness Maximus, my pit fighter. I'm not sure I've ever used a pit fighter in a game of Warhammer Quest before. He looks pretty good. So he's got a toughness of 4 with his armor. I rolled a somewhat underwhelming 3 for his starting wounds, which gives me a total of 11. But he has a Heal It potion, which is kind of like a super healing potion. He can use it on himself or others. It'll just run out on a d6 roll of 1 for himself and 2 for the others. It's a really good healing item. Really what you want with healing is not to bring people back up to full, but to bring people up to a positive number once they go down to 0. I also gave him the rope. He doesn't technically come with the rope, but I didn't want to take the pit card out of the thing, and I wanted someone to have it, so I gave it to the pit fighter. I do have the levitate spell, which could have functioned that way. More importantly, he has 2 weapons. One is the pit flail, which is +2 strength, which is great, but on a roll of a 1 to hit, he hits himself. The other is his fist spike. His fist spike doesn't allow death blow attacks, but it does just give him 3 attacks a round. Honestly, I can't see a reason to ever use the pit flail. It is very possible with that large strength that you could, if you're hurt beforehand, just kill yourself using your weapon. It is in every way a worse weapon than, say, the Bretonnian Knight's broadsword. On the other hand, 3 attacks a round, even with his strength of 3, is really good. It makes him really reliable at causing some damage a round. Also, it gives you a special rule that if you kill a monster, you can then move into the space that it occupied. So say you're stuck just fighting one small monster, you can kill it with that fist spike, move into that square, and continue the rest of your attacks. I think this pit fighter has a lot of potential. I really like that fist spike. I don't think I'm ever going to use that flail. So with this starting lineup, I think it's a strong group. I don't think there's anyone that really is an underperforming character, one that doesn't pull his weight. I think they all can be good. The weird thing is that they're all initiative 3. It took me a long time to find out how that's supposed to work in the book. Some of these rules are kind of tucked into odd places in the rule book, but if you get the sense of how Warhammer Quest works, you kind of can figure out the mindset of this. Are they going to let you choose the order of your warriors when you go, like round for round or at the beginning of the game? No, they are not. Warhammer Quest doesn't work this way. They're going to make it as hard on you as possible. They're going to have you randomly determine it, and that's the way it's going to be for the rest of the adventure. So before we start, I'm going to randomly select my warrior counters to find out who goes first. The Barbarian is going to go first, of course, because he has the light, and then it's going to be a pit fighter, then it's going to be the Chaos Warrior, and then it's going to be the Wizard. That's not ideal for me. I would have rather had the Wizard go in between, because now he's always going to be at the back of the pack where he can get ambushed by people as we go up to a doorway to explore. I'm just going to have to work around it. Speaking of the first adventure, we are going to do Free the Prisoners. Now, this was a recommendation in the book for your first adventure. I thought it was because they set up who you're actually going to fight in that last objective room, so you don't end up fighting 3 Minotaurs. I was wrong about that. It actually makes it a little bit harder, and this one, you roll up an objective room set of monsters, and then you replace any goblins with Skaven, which are more dangerous than goblins. So it doesn't really help you at all. It doesn't make it easier on this first adventure in any way. The only reason they suggest it is because it doesn't have maybe as many special rules as some of the other adventures. This game takes no opportunity to be nice to you. Anyway, I'm still going to do it. We're still going to start off with a Free the Prisoners. Some Norscan tribe lost a bunch of guys, some monsters grabbed them. We're going to go into the dungeon, we're going to get them back. So I take the Fighting Pit objective room, deal 6 cards on top of that, shuffle those, deal another 6 cards on top of that. I get my adventure deck. I draw the first card and I get a corner. Okay, no problem. I get to deploy my warriors anywhere in that space that I like. I'm going to put the Barbarian by the door so that he can investigate. I'm going to line everyone up on that far wall because I don't want my fighters bunched up by the doorway and trapped by those other guys and having to have my wizard fight a bunch of monsters all on his own, which has happened recently. So the game begins, we roll our first power score for the adventure, and I roll a 1. So immediately I get an encounter, and I draw 2d6 giant spiders. I roll up 6 of them, which is not bad. First off, it's good that I get a weak monster in the beginning because that'll allow the Barbarian to kill a couple of these guys and bump up his berserk roll for the rest of the adventure. Next off, they're just not the scariest monster you can have. If they manage to web you and you just can't finish them off, they can pile on a bunch of damage on you while you're webbed. And of course, you could waste a lot of time trying to get someone to break out of the webs. But I think my guys are in an okay position. We should be all right. So we go on to the warrior phase. Lief does not go berserk, but it doesn't hurt my own guys either, which is nice. He does manage to kill the spider in front of him, but then misses his death blow attack on the next one. The pit fighter has a special rule where if monsters appear because of an unexpected event, then he rolls a d6. He has an opportunity to do a bunch of attacks right off the bat, but in this case he rolled a 1, which means he actually doesn't get to do anything at all, which is a bummer. Sir Osis, the Chaos Warrior, does manage to kill the spider in front of Naughtiness Maximus, help that guy out a little bit. Again, his death blow misses, so he has to be satisfied with just the 1 kill, and Hundert Luftballoon misses the spider in front of him. In the monster phase, the 2 spiders in front of Hundert and Sir Osis do go and web those guys. The other 2 are stuck behind them. So it is a new round and we get a power score of 5. So I roll to see if Lief goes berserk. He now gets a +1 to this die roll, and he does. So now he gets 2 attacks for the rest of this combat, and he doesn't run the risk of attacking his friends. So he jumps forward and immediately kills the 2 spiders that are in front of Sir Osis, which is a great start. Then Naughtiness Maximus jumps into the space that a spider used to be in and kills the last 2 spiders, and that's it for them. Even better, Hundert and Sir Osis both managed to break free of their web, so we are ready to roll once all this is resolved. We draw up a treasure card and we get the Ring of Life again, which is a fantastic magic card. It means when someone goes to 0 wounds, on the roll of a 1, they come back to life with full health. So I give that to Hundert Luftballoon. Hopefully that'll keep my healer alive. Good warm-up round, good first combat. We're ready to move on. The next round, we roll a 5 for the power score, so everyone just lines up in our starting position again, ready to explore. No one's hurt, so I don't need to heal anyone. We explore and we get a corridor. The next round, we get a 5 again, so we start moving forward. Because of the way that I've lined up and the weird order that my guys decided to arrange themselves in, I end up in this 2 sets of 2 formation. It's probably fine. For the 4th straight turn in a row, we get a 5 for the power score. It would have been really nice if I had spells to cast, but we just move on. We head to the end of that corridor, end up in a formation like that. We explore in the exploration phase, and we find another corridor. They're going to make us walk for this one. New round, power score of 4, just moving forward. Next round, power score of 2, we move forward, and I didn't take a picture of this, but we explore in the exploration phase, and we find a Well of Doom. So this is a room, so when we move in there, there's going to be monsters, or at least an event. So another round rolls around, we get a power score of 5 again, we move into the room, line up in position on the far wall like that. So we draw our event card, and I get a card from the Lair of the Orc Lord expansion, which I'm using. Oh yeah, so I'm using the Lair of the Lair cards like I have for the last 2 games, and I've also taken out the Cave-In card and the D3 Minotaurs card. By the way, if you watch the channel Guerrilla Miniature Games, and if you are a wargamer and you're not watching that, you really should. Anyway, he played a game of Warhammer Quest recently, and if you want to see a good reason why not to take the D3 Minotaurs and Cave-In cards, his game is a good example. So I just take him out of the deck entirely. So instead, we get D6 Orcs and D6 Night Goblin Archers. We end up with 2 Orcs and 3 Night Goblin Archers, which is not bad at all. Choosing warriors randomly, Sir Osis and Hundert get the Orcs, Max and Lief get Night Goblin Archers, and one person gets an extra Night Goblin Archer. Turns out it's Hundert. So new round, and we get a very nice power score of 5. The Barbarian now goes berserk on a 3+. He does in fact do that, so he's just going to jump into the middle of all those guys. And just like he was trained to do, and he's been drinking all day in order to do so, he goes nuts. He kills both the Orcs in front of him, and then he turns around and kills 2 Night Goblins behind him. So already Lief the Legbiter is carving out a pretty good name for himself. Hundert Luftballoon can cast his spell whenever he likes, so he goes ahead since nobody's hurt, and he takes his lightning bolt and just blasts that last Night Goblin into oblivion. That means we get a treasure card and we get the Finger of Doom scroll. So unfortunately this has to go to the wizard again, so he's picked up both the magic items we've gotten so far, but it is kind of interesting. It's a casting number 6, which means you don't get to cast it very often. But it causes just a straight 6 damage on any monster you want. And it doesn't get used up, it's now just one of your spells, you get it permanently. You're not going to use it very often, but if there's ever a situation where you have the power to burn and you really need to do 6 damage to something, you don't want to take the chance with any dice rolls, it's not bad. So for the remainder of the phase, Hundert, Sir Osis, and Max just kind of form up near the doorway, get ready for Lief to come over there and explore in the next round. So in the next round we get a power score of 6, which means that I have to roll on the Arcane Knowledge for the Chaos Warrior to see if he is dumbfounded by everything. He does not go stupid, but he doesn't draw a useful spell either, so we just move on. We go up to the doorway, we explore, and we find another passageway. Next round, power score of 2, everyone moves forward. Get a power score of 2 again, we move to the doorway, everyone takes up formation, make sure no one gets blocked or the wizard is left to fight with Sir Osis all by himself, and then we explore the torture chamber, so another room. Not a great sign for the prisoners we're trying to free, but what can you do? Next round, power score of 4, again, no one to heal, we move into the room, we draw an event card, and we get 1 fanatic plus 1d6 Night Goblin Archers. I roll only 2 Night Goblin Archers, which is fine. It's certainly better than the last time when I got 3 Night Goblin Fanatics. Also, either I reported it wrong when I did the battle report or I did it wrong in-game. In any event, I think in the battle report I said that everyone in base contact with one of those Fanatics is going to take d6 plus 6 wounds, which is terrifying. I think I either misspoke or I made a mistake. It's actually d6 plus 3, which is a lot more reasonable. You still don't get any modifiers for armor, but you do get it for toughness. And I believe that happens immediately. So before anything else happens, this Fanatic just comes spinning out of the dark and hits a bunch of my guys. For kind of a lot too. Lief the Legbiter is going to take 3 points of damage. Naughtiness Maximus takes 5 points of damage, which hurts. And Hundert Luftballoon takes 6 points of damage. All those guys are pretty badly hurt with the exception of Lief. But we do go on to my turn. I roll a 2 for the power score, which isn't great for spells, but at least we don't get another event. Lief the Legbiter goes berserk though, which is great. He tries to repeat last round, but he needs to break away from the pin in order to get into contact with those Night Goblin Archers in the back. He doesn't manage to do that, so he has to be satisfied with just chopping the Fanatic into tiny pieces. So it's up to Naughtiness Maximus. He jumps forward and he tries to kill off those 2 Night Goblin Archers before they are able to put too much damage on my guys. Weird thing about Night Goblin Archers is they're actually quite a bit better in hand-to-hand combat than they are at shooting. But my guys are not shooters, so we gotta jump in there. Anyway, he kind of fluffs his rolls and he only manages to do 1 point of damage to one of those goblins. Sir Osis does leap forward, he does kill off that 1 Fanatic, he misses his death blow attack though, and Hundert moves up. He's going to take a little bit of a risk here, because again, he is hurt, and that Night Goblin, I believe, is targeting Hundert, so my healer could get killed at this point. I do have some options though. Anyway, Hundert goes and misses, so the risk wasn't worth it in that case. Fortunately, the Goblin misses as well, so we go on to the next turn. We get a power score of 2 again, which is too bad because I'd really like to start throwing around some healing if at all possible. And for a Frenzied Barbarian, he's pretty chill about this whole thing. He thinks my companions have got it, so he's going to move to the doorway and get ready to explore. So the pressure is on Naughtiness Maximus, but he's got that fist spike. He is up to the challenge, and he just punches that Night Goblin to death. For treasure, we pick up a healing salve, which is great. So that goes over to Lief the Legbiter. He's going to hang on to that because he has the most wounds at this point. That'll be good. It can heal someone up if they manage to get themselves killed. It is a one-use only item though. So Hundert and Sir Osis move to the doorway. We're ready to explore, and we get the monster lair, which is another room. So it's going to be another encounter. So it's a new round, and we get a power score of 6, which means that Sir Osis of the Liver has to roll on his Arcane Knowledge roll. He doesn't go stupid, but he does get the spell Levitate, and I have to cast it if I'm able to. So he goes and he levitates the wizard. So that means that the wizard can't move into this room this round. Well, I don't want us all separated, so I decide to just stay here and wait for a round when Sir Osis doesn't just randomly lift people in the air because he thinks it's funny. That does give Hundert an opportunity to heal himself for 5 wounds, but it's a bit of a wasted round. But we move on, and the next power score is 5, so everyone piles into the room. Hundert heals Naughtiness Maximus for 3 points of damage, which is nice. Everyone's a little bit better now. And we draw our event card, and we get Gorgut and minions. So Gorgut is kind of the big boss from the Lair of the Orc Lord expansion, so he's just showing up wandering around in this cave, and he's going to bring along 3 of his big guns. I actually do have the regular big guns painted up, but I gave him spears for my Orc and Goblin army, so I'm going to use these other guys. Anyway, he's going to show up with his 3 big guns, and then we roll on a chart to see who else is going along with him, and I get the bad one. I roll a 1, and so I end up with 3 Orc archers and 3 Orc warriors. So 10 very angry orcs just pile into this room, and this could go real bad real fast. Looking through the stats really quickly, Gorgut himself is not too bad. He's strength 4, he's really tough, he's got a lot of wounds, he has 2 attacks. The big thing is that he's got a magic ring that subtracts d6 from the power score every round. It won't cause an unexpected event, but it does mean that while Gorgut is alive, my wizard is probably not going to be casting anything. Another problem I have with this group is that those big guns are actually really dangerous. They're toughness 5, they got 5 wounds, so they're not going to fall over real fast. If they roll a 6 to hit you, they do an extra d6 damage, which is really devastating. And while Gorgut is on the board, they get 2 attacks. So what I do is I put the orc boys in front and the big guns in back. Now they all have to start on the same board section, so I don't have to worry about them lapping around and double teaming my guys. But those guys are gross. And of course the 3 orc archers in the back are never good. But my priority right now has to be to get rid of Gorgut. Once Gorgut is gone, then I get to cast spells normally, and those big guns drop to a more reasonable 1 attack a round. As it turns out, Gorgut is going to be trying to club Naughtiness Maximus to death. He's got the armor and wounds to take it for a while. But we go on to our turn and we get a power score of 4, but because of Gorgut's magical ring, that goes down to a 0, so no spells for the wizard. But Lief the Legbiter does go berserk, which is nice, and he hits Gorgut twice. Unfortunately, Gorgut again has an armor of 5, so I only do 5 points of damage to him. Naughtiness Maximus pulls out the fist spike, starts punching Gorgut in the face, but Gorgut's very used to that. He's only going to take 1 point of damage, and Sir Osis and Hundert Luftballoon both miss their targets. Again, I was a little worried that Sir Osis was going to pull a Brom Burgelmeister and kill the orcs in front of him so those big guns could pile in and start really laying out some serious damage, but that didn't happen, so it was a good time to miss. So in the monster phase, Gorgut goes and hits Naughtiness Maximus twice for 5 points of damage total, which isn't great. The orc in front of Lief goes and misses him, but Hundert's orc basically crits him and does 6 points of damage, so Hundert is really hurt. Sir Osis is missed with the orc, and then we go on to the orc archers. One archer hits Lief the Legbiter for 3 points of damage, and then the other archer goes and just straight murders Hundert. His Ring of Life, I go, hey, no problem, I'm going to get this, but I roll a 1, and so now that's useless for the rest of the adventure. He does not come back to life. The last orc goes and misses Sir Osis, and this is his moment, so the Chaos Warrior goes and uses his warp magic. He casts his healing hands at this moment. Everyone on the board gets 1 hit point back, and Hundert is alive. Just barely, but he's back, he's up, and he's not going to get cleared off the table. So it's a new round. We get a power score of 5, which again goes down to 0 because of Gorgut's dumb ring, and now we need to do something terminal to that guy. Lief starts off well, he hands him 4 points of damage, and then Naughtiness Maximus goes and finishes him off. Not only that, he did that with one of his earlier fist strikes, so he goes and he takes his next fist spike attack and kills the orc next to him. And Sir Osis decides to help out and also kill his orc. Hundert doesn't manage to add to the carnage total. So it's the monster phase, and here come the big guns. The good news is Gorgut is dead, and now they only have 1 attack. Lief and Naughtiness Maximus are both missed by their big guns, but the regular orc fighting Hundert goes and kills that guy. The big gun that moved into Sir Osis goes and hits him for 3 points of damage, and then an archer draws his bow back and wipes out Naughtiness Maximus. So now my pit fighter's down, my wizard is down, the other archer goes and hits Sir Osis for another 3 points of damage, and we have some stuff to do. Fortunately, Lief the Legbiter got that healing salve in a battle beforehand, and I can decide to use that on 2 different warriors and restore d6 wounds on both of them, so I think that's perfect. I'm going to get both those guys back on their feet. So Lief heals Naughtiness Maximus for 6 points of damage and Hundert for 5, which is a pair of really good rolls. Unfortunately, the healing salve then goes away, but we're hanging in there. New round, new power score, and we get a 6. So thankfully, Sir Osis doesn't go stupid again. We draw a random card for him, and he gets Rebound. So Rebound is a card that if someone is hit, you roll a d6, and on a 6 the damage gets rebounded to the monster that attacked you. I go and cast that on Hundert. I don't really think it's going to help him, but it doesn't hurt. Lief fails to do any damage to the big gun in front of him this round, and the 3 fist spike attacks from the pit fighter only cause 3 points of damage to him. These guys are tough. Sir Osis only does 3 points of damage to the big gun in front of him, but Hundert is a hero. He goes and tries to help out his Chaos Warrior buddy, and he goes and kills that big gun. So we're chipping away at him, but this is still a big fight. In the monster phase, a big gun hits Lief the Legbiter for 3 points of damage, and Archer goes and puts 2 points of damage on Sir Osis. And so really that wasn't too bad. So I saved that 6 power from the beginning just in case someone got brought down to 0 and I needed to use heal wounds to bring them back. Well, no one got brought down to 0, so now I can go and cast that spell and not worry about it. So Hundert goes and casts it on Sir Osis, who's now looking pretty hurt, but he only manages to heal him for 1 point of damage. So it's a new round, and we get a power score of 4 again, which is great. That means I can do some more heal wounds. Lief the Legbiter goes and kills the wounded big gun in front of him, but doesn't manage to follow the death blow through and get the next one. But it's okay because Naughtiness Maximus is on the case. He goes and kills that guy. Neither Sir Osis nor Hundert Luftballoon are able to bring down that one ordinary orc fighting Hundert. So we go on to the monster phase. That champion of all ordinary orcs goes and hits Hundert for 2 points of damage, and then the archers start raining death. The first thing they do is kill off Hundert Luftballoon, so he goes down. Fortunately, Naughtiness Maximus is on the case. He's got his Heal It potion. He pours that down Hundert's throat. Now, it will run out on a 1 or a 2, but at least he'll get him on his feet. Fortunately, I roll a 5, so that's 5 wounds back to Hundert, and the potion is still good. But then the other archer goes and fires and kills off Sir Osis. Sir Osis is brought down to 0, but that's okay because Hundert's alive now, so he casts heal wounds on Sir Osis. Sir Osis comes back to life, but again, for the second time in a row, I only roll 1 for the number of wounds he gets back, so he is just hanging on by a thread. That was another rough round, but we are making progress. It's a new warrior phase, and we get lucky again. We do not roll a 1, we roll a 2 for the power score. So no new event. Let's go kill these orcs. Lief the Legbiter starts off by doing the thing that he does best, which is just throw himself into a pile of monsters and kill them all. So he finally kills off that one almost indestructible orc that's been stabbing Hundert over and over again, and then he turns his attention on those 2 orc archers behind him. Now they're separated by a gap, so I can't go and death blow those guys, but fortunately Lief is berserk and so he has 2 attacks. So one kills the orc in front of Hundert, and then he goes and kills both of those archers with a successful death blow. That leaves just 1 archer left, and Naughtiness Maximus goes in and stabs that guy in the face a billion times and kills him. So we get to draw our treasure card, and we get pretty stones, which means that we roll a d6 to see how much they're worth. And guess what? I roll a 1. They're worth nothing. That was a big fight to get nothing out of it. All my guys are really torn up, but it's done. It's over with. That event is no longer in the event deck. If we survive, we're going to get a lot of gold for these monsters that we've killed, but we could really use some healing in the next couple of rooms. So in the remainder of the warrior phase, Sir Osis and Hundert just kind of move into position so we don't get surrounded if we get an unexpected event, and we go on to the next round where we roll a 2 for the power phase, which doesn't really help us that much, but at least no monsters come out and eat us. We move up to the door and we explore a guard room. Another event, another monster. Okay. We get a power score of 6, which means that again, Sir Osis does not go stupid, chooses a random spell, and we get Lifebringer, which is really nice. So I can choose any number of warriors and roll a d6 for how many wounds they're healed. Unfortunately, if I roll a double for anyone, then no one gets healed. Now, this could really help because all my guys are hurt, but I decide not to take the chance. If I choose even 2 people, that's a 1/6 chance of getting nothing. So I'm just going to try and heal Sir Osis. Unfortunately, I go and I roll a 1, so it doesn't help that much. Still, we pile into the room. I've still got enough power to do another heal wounds, so Hundert goes and tries to bring Sir Osis back up a little bit, and I go and roll a 1 again for him. So we've moved into a room. We now have to draw an event card, and we get an event. We get spikes. So this room is trapped. When you step onto a new floor tile, spikes shoot up from the ground. On a 1 through 3, that's how much damage you take. On a 4, 5, or 6, you manage to dodge out of the way. So it's a little unclear as to how this works, but it looks like the square that I moved to has to be one that no one stepped on. I was a little worried it might mean that if I step on a square that the warrior himself has not personally stepped on, I roll the die, but my thinking is that's not how it is. I could be wrong, but that's my best guess. The good news is that I don't have to draw another event card after this thing, so I just deal with these spikes and I should be fine. So we get a power score of 4. Lief the Legbiter is still doing okay. He's not going to be brought down by these spikes. So he's the only one that's going to move. He's going to move 1 square ahead. He's going to go and explore. He's going to explore the collapsed passage, which is an interesting one. He also manages to avoid the spike so he doesn't take any damage. So we're doing okay. Haven't taken any damage, didn't get any monsters. We've still got a power score of 4, so Hundert can go and cast Heal Wounds on Sir Osis again, and I get a good roll this time. I heal him up for 6, so now he's doing okay. New round comes around and we roll a 1 for the power score, so we get an event and it is monsters. We get 7 giant rats. 7 giant rats is okay. The problem is that they can cause a lot of damage on their attack. Their defense is bad, so if I can kill them all, I'm in great shape, but if they actually get to attack me, they can easily down any number of my characters. And of course, the floor is still full of spikes, so I have to be careful about where I step. So Lief the Legbiter is first, and he does a great job. He goes and kills just 3 rats right in front of him right off the bat. Great start. Naughtiness Maximus is next. He goes and punches the rat behind Lief the Legbiter to death. He goes and turns around, second attack with a fist spike, kills a rat in front of him, and so now he's still got another attack, but in order to do anything, he'd have to use his special follow-up move to get into that square where the last rat died and risk the spikes. He decides he's going to do it anyway. He steps into that square, nimbly avoids the spikes, and kills his 3rd rat. Sir Osis of the Liver polishes off the last rat. That gives us a treasure card. We get the dragon shield. We'll get to that in a moment. Hundert Luftballoon just tucks himself in the corner. Those are all squares that we've stepped in before, so he doesn't take any risk there. And so now the dragon shield. That is a 1-use shield that will prevent damage from 1 attack once per adventure. I give that to Naughtiness Maximus. He still kind of has a low hit point total, and he's a great damage dealer, so I wanted him to have it. Reading his character booklet later on, I'm not sure he can have it. It's magic armor, I think. It doesn't really clarify that it is. But in the Pit Fighter book, it says that the only armor that the Pit Fighter can wear is his pit armor. Now, I'm not sure if it's referring to ordinary equipment or something like that. It is weird because as far as I can tell, the wizard can use this dragon shield, who also cannot buy himself any armor. Anyway, all this is stuff that I found out later. If it comes up again, I might not give him any armor like this, but for right now I do it. I think it might be okay. It's impossible to tell. So it's a new round. We get a power score of 4. Everyone moves into the collapsed passageway. I try not to leave Hundert blocking off the passageway at the very end. He does get his heal wounds, so he manages to heal himself for a whole 1 wound. Fine. Power score of 5 for the next round. That's great. I didn't want to be ambushed in that situation. We move forward. Hundert this time manages to heal himself for 6, which is great. We explore and we find the fighting pit. Alright, that was a good round. Here we are at the objective room. Kind of right in the middle of where it should be. We're still not fantastic as far as wounds go. We're definitely a lot better. But there's no time like the present. So, new round comes around, we get a power score of 3, and everyone moves into the fighting pit like this. It's been a long dungeon, but now we're at the end. So here's where I read the description, and I find out I still have to roll on that chart to find out what I'm facing. Again, I'm a little disappointed, but so long as I don't roll a 1, I should be all right. Guess what I do? Guess what I do for the 2nd game in a row. I roll a 1, and I get the one with the 3 minotaurs. Okay, clearly that's terrible, but we're going to move on right now. We're not going to talk about that at this moment. So, good news. Unlike last game, I've had a bunch of turns, I've had a bunch of encounters, and I've actually built up some more magic items, that kind of thing. I've also got a stronger group. Next off, I didn't roll quite as many orcs this time, so I've got 4 ordinary orcs and only 3 orc archers, which is a lot better than having 6 like I did last time. The bad news is that I can't quite arrange it where I can shut out all the minotaurs except for 1. I have to have 2 of them in contact with my guys, and the 3rd one can be tucked out where I'm not going to be getting attacked by him. So Sir Osis and Hundert both take a minotaur, which is not great because Hundert isn't going to last long against one of those things. Max and Lief get a pile of orcs, and the last minotaur and the orc archers go in the corners. Okay, so this is it. The first thing that I want to do is I want to use my Hand of Death scroll. So this is a use once and then discard, but this is the time I got to do it. So I read this death spell off of the parchment, and I go and I cause a mighty 14 wounds to the Minotaur fighting my wizard. That was a good roll. Lief the Legbiter goes berserk, which helps, but he only manages to wound the 2 orcs in front of him, which doesn't help that much. Still, the worst thing that he could have done was to kill all of those orcs with a big death blow and let that Minotaur charge into the flank, so at least that didn't happen. Naughtiness Maximus, he's a real team player though. He's going to ignore the orcs in front of him. He's going to turn to that badly wounded Minotaur fighting Hundert, and he's going to stab him to death. And he's going to use his special rule to step into that Minotaur's place. Unfortunately, Max doesn't add any more damage to that second Minotaur. Next, Sir Osis, the Chaos Warrior, is going to go. He's going to use his Chalice of Night to automatically hit that Minotaur, and he rolls up a very nice 5 points of damage. And somehow Hundert goes and he swings his sword and causes another 4 points of damage to that Minotaur. So now he's sitting with 9 wounds. He's got 6 remaining. So that means that if I wanted to burn a bunch of these power stores on Hundert, I can use that Finger of Doom spell to kill him off. And I have to think about it a while because it might be nice to have those heals available. It might be nice to have those power store points available. But in the end, I decide that it's worth it. I spend the 3 power store, I do that automatic 6 points of damage and kill off another Minotaur. This is going a lot better. I am burning a lot of abilities that I'm not going to get back though. The good news is that I am not getting any Minotaurs striking me this round. So in the monster phase, an orc goes and hits Lief the Legbiter for 2 points of damage, and an archer sticks Sir Osis with an arrow for 1. That was not terrible. We're on to the next round and we get a somewhat uninspiring power score of 2. Lief the Legbiter swings and doesn't really do that great. He goes and kills 1 wounded orc off, but that's it. Naughtiness Maximus moves in and he goes and misses 3 times, just 3 misses right in a row. But I am tired of these orc archers, so I'm going to send Sir Osis in there to sort those guys out. So he moves into the midst of those guys. He's going to use his Chalice of Night to hit one of the orcs and kill him. And he's going to do it again. He's going to use that Chalice of Night another time. So he's used up 3 of those. And there goes that other orc. So great job, Sir Osis. Finally, Hundert gets into the action as well. He moves forward and kills off the other wounded orc fighting Lief. We move on to a very good monster phase in that both of the orcs miss Lief, and the last orc archer goes and fires his arrow at Sir Osis but causes no damage. New round, and unfortunately we get a power score of 1, so we draw another event card and we get Boggoth the Snotling. So Boggoth the Snotling, again from the Lair of the Orc Lord, he runs out, he grabs the lantern from Lief the Legbiter and runs off down that corridor. He's not going to leave anyone in the dark. And he's not really technically a monster, so I don't have to kill him off to end this battle. So, you know what, Boggoth? I think you can have that lantern. I think we're fine with that. There's probably a torch around here somewhere. We're right at the end. He can go and do whatever. Moving on to the warrior phase, Lief the Legbiter goes and wounds the orc in front of him. Fortunately, Naughtiness Maximus is right there. He finishes that guy off, moves into the square. So I have a choice. There's that last orc, there's the Minotaur, and the orc archer. I am tired of the orc archer, so I spend my remaining attack punching him to death. I don't regret it in any way. I know I'm going to take those Minotaur attacks, so I drink my heal it potion. I only managed to get 2 health back, but at least the potion doesn't run out. And I do have the dragon shield to help me out. Sir Osis moves up. He uses his Chalice of Night again to auto-hit the orc in front of him. Unfortunately, he rolls badly and doesn't cause any damage. So it's the monster phase. The orc misses, which is nice, and the Minotaur gets one of his attacks dragon shielded, so that thing is gone, but he missed with his other attack, so we are doing great. This might be it. I might actually be winning a game. I might win a game of Warhammer Quest here. New round, and it's a power score of 3. Move on to the warrior phase. Lief the Legbiter does his Lief the Legbiter thing and goes and kills that last orc. Naughtiness Maximus punches 5 points of damage off of the Minotaur. Sir Osis moves in and uses another Chalice of Night ability to auto-hit the Minotaur and does 5 points of damage to him. I've got this Mark of Chaos that's just burning a hole in my pocket too. I'm waiting for the time where I roll badly on the damage so I can re-roll it and add more wounds to the pile, but actually Sir Osis is doing really well. For a wizard, basically. So it's back to the monster phase, and the only monster on the table now is the Minotaur. Boggoth doesn't count. And he goes, and yeah, this was bound to happen. He goes and he smashes Naughtiness Maximus into the ground, just flattens him. Fortunately, I still got a little power store left, so Hundert Luftballoon spends 1 of his power, bringing that up to 4. I get to cast Heal Wounds. I heal 5 wounds on Naughtiness Maximus, which is great. Everyone's still alive as we move into the next turn. We get a power score of 3. Lief the Legbiter is unfortunately stuck behind the rest of my guys, so we move on to Naughtiness Maximus. The pit fighter does 4 points of damage with his 3 attacks onto the Minotaur. That leaves just 1 hit point left on this guy. It's down to Sir Osis. He again drinks from that Chalice of Night. He's good and sauced at that point and very angry, and he manages to kill the Minotaur. That is it. We'll get a new lantern in town. We go out, we free the prisoners, and we have won an adventure of Warhammer Quest. Great job, bad guys. We kick down the door at the end of the fighting pit, we free a bunch of prisoners, get just a huge pile of gold, and we are loaded. Now, the rest of this is going to be sort of campaign stuff. I do intend to use these warriors again, so I'm going to use the rules from the roleplay book, and I'm going to expand these guys. If you're not interested in that, you can go and quit out here. But suffice it to say that I roll up a ton of gold, and between that and Gorgut and all the monsters that I've destroyed, most of my guys have about 1,000 gold or more, which is a lot. I look through the roleplay book and I find out if we go to town, we can get a fair amount of stuff. So that's what I do. Now, this takes a really long time. There's a lot of rules. So especially if you're doing it solo, this is going to take you a while. I actually do it the next day. And I remember doing this a long time ago, like actually going to town. You take a really long time just traveling there. There's a ton of random rolls to do, and you absolutely can lose a bunch of your stuff on the way to it. So the first thing we have to do is determine where we're going, village, town, or city. I decide that a village isn't going to get me what I want. I want to go to a town to have a better shot at buying some of these items. So we have to do 4 random rolls on the travel table, and the first random roll that I get, I lose 1 week. Basically, I find a bunch of houses that are destroyed, and we're nice guys. We want to help out our Norscan community, and so I spend a week building those things instead of traveling. So I still basically have 4 rolls to go. I roll again, uneventful week. I roll again, uneventful week. For the next one, I come across a chapel, which says that you can spend a certain amount of gold while staying there, and you have a chance of gaining 1 wound. Sounds like a great deal. I've got gold to burn, so we all make a donation, and I roll pretty well, so Hundert, Lief, and Max all gain 1 wound, which is extremely helpful. Also, I get to still travel, so this should be my last roll, but again, in times past, these rolls have just kept on adding travel time, and sometimes it takes you a really long time to get where you're going. For example, this one right here, we come to a fork in the road in this random roll I get, so 50% chance I could choose the correct one and go right to my destination, or I could choose the wrong one and I lose a bunch of time. Fortunately, I roll the correct path, and we end up in town. So character by character, here's what happens in town. Now, I don't intend to spend very long there, but you'll see what goes on. So the first thing I want to do is I want to send Hundert to the Wizards Guild. And the first thing I have to do is actually go and find it, because I don't know, I guess some of these places are not convenient. So I got to roll like a 7 on 2d6. The first day I don't find the Wizards Guild. And then I roll on a random event, because I have to do that when I'm in town, and Hundert gets sick. So he's sick for 2 days. So right off the bat, our trip has been extended a number of days. So day 2 and day 3, he's sick and in bed. At least I don't have to roll for random events. On the 4th day, he's up again, and he finds the Wizards Guild. Even better than that, he has to roll for availability, but he gets it and he can buy a wizard staff. So a wizard staff is really nice. I'm -1 to hit with it, but I can use it for a +1 toughness. I don't know, I might still use the sword, but it also has 2 charges in it, so that adds to my power store. And I can also, once per adventure, re-roll the power score phase. So if I'm in the middle of a fight and I roll a 1 and I really don't need an unexpected event piling onto me, I can re-roll that, and so it's great. I also try and swap my levitate spell. I don't manage to do that though. As it turns out, I still have to spend time in town because of my companions. I'll get to that in a minute. So I decided to go to find the alehouse because we are the louts of chaos, and that is what we do. The first day, I don't manage to find it, and I get into a fight. And as you would expect, the wizard doesn't do real well in a fight, and I lose 100 gold pieces. Then I take a closer look at that alehouse chart, and I decide that it's really not in my best interest to go there. And so I just roll random events. And on the next day, I get drugged, and I pass out somewhere. But it turns out okay. I don't get robbed or beaten or anything. The next day, I go on a hunt with some of the townsfolk. They're basically sending me on a snipe hunt. All night, I stay out there, and I just get tricked, and they all laugh at me, but nothing bad happens. The day after that, a rampaging bull goes down the city street, and I decide to try and stop it. And I don't. It stomps me into the mud, but weirdly, that's one of the least bad results that I could get. I just pick myself up and move on. And finally, this is day number 9. I really don't want to spend 2 weeks in this town because then I have to roll on something called a cataclysmic event or a catastrophic event. I don't know what it is, but just seeing what's happened to me in this town with the normal events, I don't want to know. Anyway, day 9, I get an uneventful day, so Hundert is done. Lief the Legbiter, my barbarian, immediately goes to the armor and buys a war helm. So that'll add +2 toughness to him, bringing up to toughness 6, so he is going to be a real tank. Also, someone finds him that he owes money to. He ends up paying him 20 gold pieces. Fine, whatever. The next day, he finds the fighting pit, which is a special location detailed in the Pit Fighter rulebook. He gets into a big fight. He wins, and he wins 100 gold pieces. And then he's sent on a snipe hunt. The third day, he goes to a weaponsmith and buys a throwing axe. A throwing axe is one of the best weapons that I can find for the price. You can throw it and you automatically get it at the end of the combat, but more importantly, it gives you +1 strength. So now he is strength 5 when fighting normally. For his random event that day, he does an honest day's work for some weird reason and gets 20 gold pieces. So he loses 20 gold, he gets 20 gold, we're doing okay. The next day, he goes back to the fighting pit and he loses a wrestling match. So now he, I guess, has to work off his loss and spend 4 days cleaning toilets at the fighting pit, which you gotta figure is just one of the worst things that can happen to a character in the Warhammer world. Anyway, that's day 5, 6, 7, and 8, which is why everyone had to take all that extra time. Finally, he decides he's gonna go to the alehouse, finds it, and he loses all his money. I forget what the event was, but someone tricks him or beats him up or something like that. So there goes the remainder of Lief the Legbiter's cash. So he's going to get kicked out of town because he can't pay his living expenses. But he does get a dog. A stray dog goes and befriends him, which really doesn't help you in game. In fact, it's only a penalty because now when I go to town, my living expenses are doubled because I got to feed a dog. So on to Naughtiness Maximus, the pit fighter. First day he can't find the fighting pit, then he gets accused of a crime and thrown into jail, so all his friends have to pay a bunch of money to get him bailed out. Lief ends up paying 30, Hundert 10, and Sir Osis pays 15. Fine. Second day he finds a fighting pit, and whatever the event was, he gets plus wounds from it. So he gets punched in the face with his buddies, and he ends up coming out of there tougher. So now he's gained 2 wounds in this post-game thing, so he's doing real well. He tries to find his pit fighter armor or knee spikes at the pit fighting place, but he can't find it. He doesn't make the availability roll. And then he goes on a snipe hunt in the remainder of the day. Day 3, he goes back to the pit, and his special thing that happens is he learns a whirlwind attack. So now he can choose to forego his normal attacks and strike everyone that's adjacent to him. That might be a reason to use his pit flail every now and again if he's really in a position where he is surrounded by guys and wants to do a bunch of damage to him. He does manage to find some pit fighter armor, so he gets some leg armor, and he finds 5 heal it potions. Still can't find the knee spikes though. However, the random event for the rest of the day is that he was fooled. So one of the things that he bought that day ends up being a fake, and he has to take it off of his character sheet. So I lose one of those heal it potions. Still, having 5 heal it potions, 1 from before and 4 now, that means that that guy is set for a real long time. Because those things just might not go away like they didn't in this one round. So anyway, he's in good shape. They're real cheap for only 50 gold. Day number 4, he goes to the general store and he buys rope. So now I legitimately have rope if someone falls into a pit. And he also gets a dog. I might have to paint up some chaos hounds to follow these guys around. Day 5, he goes into the alehouse and he loses 500 gold on a fake talisman. That's not great. That was a lot of money. It also was an uneventful day as far as the settlement events goes, but the pit fighter has a special rule that on uneventful days he rolls on another chart because he owes people a lot of money, and they might come looking for him, or fans might show up and, say hi, and in fact that's what happened. So it would normally be an uneventful day, but because he's a pit fighter, some people recognize him on the street, and he spends a bunch of time just signing autographs and livestock and stuff. It's a weird entry. This is a strange game. Anyway, the next day I go back to the alehouse because that's what we do. We're the Louts of Chaos. And I win an arm wrestling contest, which apparently is pulling people's arms out of their sockets. That means next time I go to a store, there's a 50% chance they just close the store and won't sell me anything, or they sell it to me for half price because of my reputation. Anyway, for my settlement event, I go to a priest or a shrine or something like that, and I end up paying 100 gold pieces in a donation, which is kind of a lot, but I do get to re-roll my next failed to hit roll in the next adventure. Day 7, I go and visit a weaponsmith. I am going to try and buy something now that I might be paying half price for it, but they don't want to do that. They want to throw me out instead. So I hit the streets, fall in something disgusting, and immediately get sick, which is why days 8 and 9 I have to recover from that, and everyone has to hang around an extra day. Finally, thanks for sticking with me on this, Sir Osis of the Liver, my Chaos Warrior, goes to the Armorer. He goes and buys an open helmet and a shield. Those will both add +1 toughness to him, which boosts that up to 6 as well, and he has an uneventful day. Day number 2, I go and try and find the alehouse, because of course I do, but I can't find it, just too befuddled. Streets are too confusing, I guess. But for my settlement event, sure enough, I get fooled too. They have sold me a fake shield, so I lose all the money that I spent on that. I'll drown my sorrows in the alehouse. I do find that the next day. They go and give me a really nice tattoo, but then afterwards I am accosted by beggars and I lose 50 gold pieces. Day number 4, I go back to the alehouse. I roll up another tattoo, so this guy's got lots of tattoos on him now. And then as I'm heading out, someone accuses me of witchcraft. Someone is very smart and observant because, yeah, it's pretty much true. Anyway, I got to roll to see if I can convince him to stay or if I get chased out of town. I get chased out of town, which is pretty much just fine. I'm low on money. I don't really need to spend more time getting sick or punched or losing more cash just living there. Oh, that was a lot of stuff. But my guys did get a lot more powerful. Most of them got more wounds. Most of them got more armor. Hundert got a real nice staff. So, successful game. I am very happy. We are ready to go adventuring in the next one. For the next adventure, the book recommends the Skaven Curse adventure for the Fountain of Light objective room. That's actually a really nasty one. I'm not sure I want to do that. I might try it anyway. We'll see. Ugh, this was a long one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. If you have any comments, concerns, or questions, go ahead and leave them below. Bye.